Hi, and welcome back to Northern Maple, where we discover the unfiltered truths of Canada's past, present, and future from coast to coast, breaking the silence. At the end of the last episode, I had asked the question, what is globalism? Why is this question relevant to Canadians today? It's relevant because our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is a globalist, and he believes globalism is the future of Canada. And with the Liberal Party inching its way closer with each passing day, or should I say each passing recount, towards a majority government, we may very well lose our ability to have any say in the future direction of our nation. So, it's important that we understand the key concept of globalism. At its core, globalism is the idea that the world is interconnected, and we should foster cooperation across borders to address shared challenges. It's about economies, cultures, and governments working closer together. Think trade agreements, international organizations, or even the internet connecting people across different continents. Globalism isn't just a buzzword. It's a process driven by globalization, the expansion of trade, communication, and cultural exchange. For example, when you buy a phone made in China, use an app developed in the US, or watch a movie from South Korea, you're experiencing globalism in action. It's rooted in the belief that collaboration on a global scale can solve big problems that no single country can tackle alone. What problems do globalists push most often? Climate change, pandemics, and poverty. Globalism isn't just about practical cooperation. It's also an ideology that promotes a world where borders are not important and universal values like free trade or human rights take precedence. Sounds great in theory, but arguments can be made from both sides. Let's start with the pros of globalism, which does have some undeniable benefits. First, it drives economic growth. By opening markets, countries can trade goods and services more freely, which in turn can lower prices and boost innovation. For instance, global supply chains means you can buy electronics more affordably, and developing nations can export their goods to wealthier markets, lifting millions out of poverty. Since the 1990s, global trade has helped reduce extreme poverty rates from 36% down to 9.6%, according to the World Bank data. Second, globalism fosters cultural exchange. Think about how you can stream music from Nigeria, learn yoga in India, or even enjoy sushi in Winnipeg. This blending of cultures enriches lives and promotes understanding, which in theory can reduce stereotypes and conflict over time. Third, globalism enables collective action on global problems. Here in Canada, the main global problem being pushed, bet you can guess it, climate change. International agreements like the Paris Accord bring countries together to cut emissions. Or consider pandemics. Global health organizations like the WHO coordinate vaccine distribution to save lives. We'll get into that in a future episode. So, without global cooperation, these challenges would be made much harder to address. And finally, globalism can spread ideas and values like democracy or human rights. International pressure can push authoritarian regimes to reform, and global communication tools like social media can empower people to demand change. And now for the cons of globalism. Globalism has some serious downsides, and one of the biggest is the risk of centralizing power. When global institutions like the UN, the World Economic Forum, the WHO, or other multinational corporations can gain influence, they can make decisions that affect billions without democratic accountability. These entities are often led by unelected officials or wealthy elites, not representatives chosen by voters. For example, trade deals like NAFTA have been criticized for prioritizing corporate interest over worker rights, leaving entire communities jobless when factories move overseas. This leads to a deeper concern. Globalism could enable a kind of elite control where resources and authority concentrate in the hands of a select few. Imagine a world where global policies set by influential figures in boardrooms or summits override local needs. This could erode national sovereignty, where countries lose their ability to make their own laws or protect their citizens' interests. In extreme views, this centralization might even resemble a form of global enslavement. Think communism, but on a global level, where ordinary people have little say and power is held by a technocratic or corporate elite pushing a one-size-fits-all agenda. Another downside is economic inequality. While globalism lifts some of the poverty, it can widen the gap between the rich and the poor. Wealthy nations and corporations often benefit the most from global trades rather than smaller economies. And workers in developed countries can face job losses to cheaper labor markets. And lastly, globalism can erode cultural identity as global brands and values dominate. Local traditions and languages may fade. For some, this feels like a loss of heritage, replaced by a homogenized culture. So where does that leave us? Globalism is this double-edged sword. It has the potential to connect us, drive progress, and tackle shared problems. However, it also risks concentrating power, undermining democracy, destroying cultures, and enslave entire nations. The concern about elites using globalism to centralize control is a serious one, especially when it's the elites who are the leaders of these multinational organizations. Canada's most recent step towards globalism just recently occurred on May 20th, where under Mark Carney's leadership, Canada adopted the WHO pandemic agreement. This treaty aims to strengthen global cooperation on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response, ensuring equitable access to vaccines and resources. Negotiations of this treaty began in December of 2021 through the WHO's intergovernmental negotiating body. On May 20th, the Assembly adopted the agreement by consensus, with Dr. Theresa Tam, Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, representing Canada. The text is said to respect national sovereignty. However, there's still an annex on pathogen access and benefit sharing that is still under negotiation. Let's clarify the process. By adoption, this means that the World Health Assembly approved the treaty's text, moving it forward for individual countries to consider. It's not yet legally binding in Canada. The next step is ratification, where the Canadian government formally approves the treaty. In Canada, the executive branch, specifically our cabinet, appointed by the Prime Minister, has the authority to negotiate, sign, and ratify treaties. The treaty will be tabled in the House of Commons for a 21 sitting day review period, allowing MPs to discuss it. However, Cabinet holds the final decision, and public actions like petitions can influence but not prevent ratification. Let me break this down even further. On behalf of Canada, an unelected official, Dr. Theresa Tam, voted in favor of the adoption of the WHO Pandemic Agreement, the treaty, as presented to the World Health Assembly on May 20th of this year. The treaty will then be considered for ratification by our cabinet, another group of unelected officials. These unelected officials have the sole authority to ratify the proposed treaty. Let's run the scenario that the majority of our MPs representing our voices do not support this treaty because they believe it infringes on Canada's remnants of sovereignty. Now, you might argue that the treaty will be tabled for 21 sitting days in the House of Commons, and our MPs will be able to discuss it, make motions accordingly, and we, the people, can sign petitions and voice our opinions. However, none of these actions can actually prevent the ratification of this treaty. The power lies solely with the members of the cabinet, MPs who were appointed by the Prime Minister, not by the people. This entire situation of Canada adopting the WHO pandemic agreement is a perfect example of the possible negative effects of globalism. Decisions about our nation's well-being and our future are being decided by unelected officials, and we the people have no say in it. And although the finalized agreements have not yet been published yet, Previous drafts did include the reallocation of 20% of all pandemic-related medical supplies of each country to the WHO for the redistribution to nations in need. In this one treaty, we have centralized power to unelected officials and centralization of resources. What if Canada giving 20% of its medical resources, paid by Canadian tax dollars, results in Canadians dying from a lack of medical resources? Maybe it's a selfish point of view of mine, but I truly believe that Canadian tax dollars should benefit Canadians first, and if we have leftovers, absolutely share it. Also, I don't think it's a selfish point of view at all. I don't see anything wrong in it, just saying. Once the agreement is made available in its entirety, I will absolutely do an episode summarizing it for you all. So, that's it for a quick introduction on globalism. The reason why I am doing episodes on key concepts like this is because it has become quite obvious that Canadians have been conditioned to be politically illiterate for a reason. There is so much that we do not know or even understand with regard to our government, politics, and geopolitics, and I truly believe that our ignorance is what opened the door to Canada's present. I think it's quite obvious that I am a conservative, but the purpose of this show isn't for me to turn liberals into conservatives. It's to educate my viewers on the truths as best as I can. I want Canadians to make informed decisions based on logic, not based on their emotions. And I hate to break it to you, but if you see a headline and immediately react to it as opposed to, question it, then you are making your decisions based on emotions. And our nation does not need more virtue signalers. It needs independent thinkers that apply critical thought and hold our government accountable to the people they are meant to serve, people like you and I. So, hopefully these episodes are helping you understand key concepts and igniting a passion of curiosity within you. And on that note, what do you think about globalism? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep this conversation going and growing. Anyways, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time on Saturday, where we're going to discuss just a quick update on everything that has happened since the election. See you guys next time. Bye.